Alrighty. So the next lesson, page 139, adding fractions. So the first one we're going to try is 5/12 plus 5/6. Now, I was saying several times before we can compare fractions, put them in order, add them or subtract them, we need, that's right, common denominators. Thank goodness you didn't have Dora asking you that one. So I'm looking at the numbers. Again, I could multiply these together, just doing 12 times 6, but then I get a really big denominator. And at the end, we don't want that necessarily. It just makes it harder when we go to put it into lowest terms. So I'm going to check, can I use one of them as my common denominator? So I'm looking at the larger of the two and saying, okay, is 12 in the 6 times tables? Yes. 12 is a multiple of 6. So I'm going to use 12 as my common denominator for this one. So 5/12 doesn't have to get changed at all. So I just copy that down here. 5/6, well, what do I have to do to 6 to make it 12? I have to multiply by 2. So I do the same to my denominator. So then we jump down to this one. So I have them both as fractions over 12, and 5/6 is 10/12. Okay, these are equivalent fractions. They're worth the exact same. It's just this is being shown with a different denominator. Now, when you add fractions, you're only adding the numerators. Okay, you never add the denominators. The way to think of this, let's say you had a pizza, because pizzas are, the best way and the only thing that people ever use to talk about fractions. But you got a 12-slice pizza. You have 5 slices left, so you have 5/12 left. Your buddy comes along and says, oh, I only got through 2 pieces. I have 10/12 left. Let's put them together and see how many we have. So you have 5/12 left. Your buddy comes along, gives you 10/12. How many twelfths do you have left? Well, 5 plus 10, you have 15/12 left. And you may be wondering or looking at that going, hey, wait, 15/12, like that's more than a pizza. And you're right. This is an improper fraction. Our numerator is larger than the denominator. And we don't like to leave things in as improper fractions in math. We want to put it as a mixed number in lowest terms. So a whole pizza is worth 12. So how many groups of 12 can we get out of this? Well, just one whole. One whole in this case is worth 12 pieces. So I take my 12 pieces out. That represents one whole pizza. And then I've got some left over. How many pizzas left over after I take 12 out of our 15? 3 pieces left over. So that's where the numerator comes from. So this is back down into a mixed number because I've got a whole number and a fraction. And then your last step, always in this unit, is going to be looking at fractions and trying to figure out, are they in lowest terms? So we want to get both numerator and denominator to be the smallest numbers we can. And we do that by dividing by our prime numbers. I think most of you have them memorized by now. Remember, here, I'll put them up here. Ooh, let's choose another color because that's fun. So if you've forgotten these, you may want to just jot them down again, okay? Because you'll use them when you get going for reducing everything. So the first, and you really only need the first 6, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. You'll probably never have to divide by anything higher than 13, but you can keep going if you want. 17, 19, but that's good enough. Okay, so you can check both numerator and denominator to put it in lowest terms. Can I divide them both by 2 and get a whole number answer? Well, no, that doesn't work. So then you go to the next one. Can I divide by 3 and get a whole number answer? Oh, it works for that one. Is 12 divisible by 3? Yes, it is. Oh, okay, so I can divide them both by 3. So our whole number stays the same. It's still 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then you have to check this one again. Is it in lowest terms? It's fairly obvious that it is because our numerator is 1. So we know that's lowest terms. Okay? Next example. They have 2/3 plus 4/5 plus 3/4. So obviously, first step, find common denominators. So I'm looking at my denominators. 3, 5, and 4. 3 and 5. What's special about those? They're prime numbers. So I know for sure I'm going to have to multiply those two together, because otherwise there's no way that we're going to find a multiple of them in each other's times tables. So 3 times 5 is 15. Is 15 a multiple of 4? No, we don't get a 15 in the 4 times tables, which means then we have to do 15 multiplied by 4, which is 60. Okay, so 60 is our common denominator. So I'm writing down blank over 60, blank over 60, plus blank over 60. I don't know these numerators yet. We're pretending I don't have those. And then I'm looking at this, 2/3. So what do I have to do to 3 to make it 60? Well, how did I get 60 in the first place? I took my 3 and I multiplied it by the other two denominators, by 5 and by 4. So that's what I showed you here, 3 times 5 times 4. So 4 times 5 is 20, 20 times 3 is 60. And that's what I did up here. 4 times 5 is 20, 20 times 2, 40. So that's the equivalent fraction of 2/3 as a fraction over 60. And then I'm looking at 4/5. What did I do to 5 to get it to be 60? Well, I multiplied 5 by the other two denominators. So by 3 and by 4. So 3 times 4 is 12, times 5 is 60. 3 times 4 is still 12. 12 times 4, 48. And then again, one last time. What did I do to 4 to get it to be 60? Well, I multiplied by the other two denominators. So I did 4 times 3 times 5, and then 3 times 3 times 5. And it gives me 45. So now I have all three fractions as fractions over 60. Now, just like the pizza, your pizza's broken into 12. How many twelfths plus how many twelfths equals a total of how many twelfths? This is 60ths, okay? Do not add the denominators. Do not subtract denominators. We only add or subtract the numerators, okay? So on your calculator, 40 plus 48 plus 45 gives you 133 over 60. Now, improper fraction again. How many groups of 60 can we fit into that? Well, I don't know, 60 and 133, it's way too big for me. Okay, well, forget the 0 for a second. It's 6. How many groups of 6 can we get into? And because I moved the decimal over one spot there to get it to be 6, we'll do the same. How many groups of 6 can I get into 13? Oh, well, 2 groups of 6 would be 12. 3 groups of 6 would be 18. So I know I can get 2 groups in there. Okay, so 2 groups of 60. 6 times 2 would be 12. So 60 times 2 would be 120. So I took 120 out of this. It's right there. That's worth 120 60ths. So how many 60ths are left after I took out 120 from here? 13. 133 minus 120 gives me 13 60ths. And now we have to check, is this lowest terms? Well, because you have your prime numbers memorized, look at that. 13 is a prime number. So that tells us that if we can shrink this down, they have to be divisible by 13, because that's the only thing 13 will divide by to give us a whole number answer. And if we try to do 60 divided by 13, we get a decimal. So that tells us that 13 over 60 is a fraction in lowest terms. So now we know we're done. Okay, so that's the lesson, and you can see the homework posted with the link that you clicked on to get this. Alrighty, have fun. Remember, I'm around if you just comment on it, or you can fire me an email, and I will do my best to give you a hand. Okay, take care, ladies, gents. Look at that. I got through a whole lesson. We're just under 10 minutes, and even better, I didn't drop my phone. I am like such a YouTuber. This stuff is just awesome. I can't believe how good I am.